Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the day 2 of the biggest technology and innovation conference of India, Pan IIT World of Technology 2023. This is the AI track. We call it leveraging AI, or supercharging AI is the theme of the day. And this is where we bring together India's sharpest brains and the most accomplished change makers, paving the path ahead for not just India, but the entire future of this planet. You've all heard some highly accomplished speakers and networked with potential friends and partners and colleagues and academicians yesterday on day 1. And I promise that day 2 will be beating that experience further. We have a lot of eminent speakers who are coming up today, wonderful panels on topics that mean a lot for all of us who are researching, building, and developing things in AI. I wanted to share a few thoughts before we start. So if you've joined us here today, there is one thing I can say with certain. You're not just someone who likes to predict where the world is headed. You're someone who acknowledges the power and responsibility you have as a builder, as a technologist, a founder, a researcher, maybe an educator or an investor. But most importantly, you're here because you're a visionary. And you can't resist the noble pull to build the future you envision. And we all share a common goal, which is to leave an everlasting legacy. So this track, the AI track, is the perfect space to discuss this idea of future building. Some people say the genie was let out of the bottle the day ChatGPT was announced. This is when it got on the lips of everyone. We were all talking about AI. A lot of you have been in AI for more than a decade, actually. In fact, as a 30-year-old, I first interacted with AI 10 years ago myself, and I find it almost laughable that, this is the pace of technology that we have all witnessed. It's quite insane. So we're entering a new world, and the technology is now accelerating at an exponential pace. A pace that is just too hard to keep up for anyone, for you, for me, and for the whole of humanity, for that matter. And AI is a very unique technology in many ways, and we're aware of that. And what makes it special is that so far we thought intelligence was all about being human, or rather being human was all about intelligence. That was often the understanding we had. And this movement or this progress has forced us to reflect. It has made us reconsider what it means to be human at a very deeply philosophical level. So the fact that technology is growing smarter every day holds incredible promise, and that is what we usually like to talk about. But also a lot of challenges, which I hope will also be something that we as a whole here in this room and beyond take a look at. I want us all to be aware of and exercise the choice we all collectively have today. The choice of asking the right questions and to create a conscious future. But what we know is for sure that we're witnessing the tip of the iceberg, and all the acclaimed people here, eminent speakers that we're going to have, a lot of our audience members, professors, researchers, such a wide diversity of people who are all contributing in their own special ways towards building a future with AI. It's my hope that we'll all take away valuable lessons and relationships that empower us to do all the big things that we've always dreamt of. So just a quick introduction. I'm Nivedan, your host and MC for today's event. I'm a graduate of IIT Bombay 2014 batch. If any of you are here from IIT Bombay, I'm from Hostel 3, if that makes our bond even stronger. Hostel 3! Okay, well, so I'm now on a mission to educate and empower the next generation to adopt AI and excel at their work. I do this with an AI newsletter, which is the largest in India with 100,000 subscribers. I do a lot of AI education workshops, and now I'm building a lot of Gen AI products, especially centered around VCs and founders. It's my supreme honor to be standing here to have this opportunity and facilitate this interaction for the thinkers, leaders, and builders of tomorrow. With this, I would like to formally kick off our AI track, and I would like to invite our very first keynote speaker, The topic is how should companies plan? We can move the slide forward. How should companies plan for the disruptive AI revolution? Ladies and gentlemen, our very first speaker is a true visionary in technology and business, an IIT Kharagpur and University of Cincinnati alum, driving transformation across global giants like Invensys, SAP, and Tata in his previous stints. He's now the leader advancing Adani Group's tech innovation and international growth as Group CTO. Please join me in welcoming our remarkable opening keynote speaker, Sudipta Bhattacharya. Please take the stage, Sudipta. Thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Good morning to everybody. It's an honor to be here, especially to be among fellow IITians. I have a couple of my colleagues with me. I got Gaurav, who's from IIT Kanpur. I got Shubham, who's from IIT Delhi. I got Somnath, who's also from IIT Delhi. And I got Vachas, not an IT guy, but he worked in the best company, General Electric, for a long time. So I got my colleagues here. So our objective here is to obviously come mingle. This is the first time we are attending this conference. And clearly, we are excited about what's going on in Gen AI, but we are also even more excited about being able to get to mingle with all of you and really learn together. So what I thought I would do is really talk about how are corporates today thinking about AI. It's one thing to be able to talk about AI as a product, as a solution, as a technology, but it's forcing us, traditional companies, to really start imagining what would a future be if we are not ingrained in this whole process that seems to be more disruptive than any other past industrial revolutions that have taken place. So let me start off with a quick video to set context. And keep in mind that this video is a video about 10 years old. And let's set some context on why this is important.
Social robots are robots that are intentionally designed to mimic cues, movements, sounds, whatever, that people automatically, subconsciously associate with states of mind. And this works really well. I first got really into this topic when I bought a toy called a Pleo. It's a baby dinosaur robot that came out in 2007. So this is the Pleo. The Pleo is a very cool toy that I initially bought because it has all these cool motors and touch sensors and an infrared camera in the snout. And it mimics lifelike behavior really well. And one of the things it has is a tilt sensor. So it'll know what direction it's facing. And I thought this was really cool, and I would show it off to my friends. And I would tell my friends to hold it up by the tail, because this is what happens when you hold the Pleo up by the tail. It mimics pain and distress. So I would show this off to my friends, and some of my friends held it up for a really long time and watched it squirm, and that started to make me uncomfortable. I realized I would ask people to put it back down and say, "That's enough," put him back down, and then I would pet the robot to make it stop crying. And that was really interesting because I knew exactly how the robot worked, and I still felt compelled to comfort it. So that sparked a curiosity in me, and fast forward a few years, I did a workshop with my friend Hannes Gosselt at a conference called Lift in Geneva. We took 5 of these baby dinosaur robots, we gave them to 5 groups of people. We had each group name their robot and play with it, interact with it. We had them do a little fashion show with the robots where they dressed them up in pipe cleaners and construction paper, just so that we could personify them a little. And then after about 45 minutes to an hour, we unveiled a hammer and a hatchet and a knife, and we told them to torture and kill the robots. Now this turned out to be pretty dramatic. We obviously wanted it to be dramatic, but it turned out to be more dramatic than we expected it to be. We had initially thought, okay, there's probably going to be a split of people in the room. Some people are going to say, oh, so what? It's just a robot. And some people are going to have more of a problem with the violence. And we wanted to ratchet up the violence and see how the split in the room changed. And instead, everyone just absolutely refused to even hit the baby dinosaur robots. We finally had to threaten to destroy all of the robots unless someone took a hatchet to one of them. And this poor guy volunteered, and we all stood in a circle around him, and he brought the hatchet down on the robot's neck, and people kind of winced and looked away. And then there was this half-joking, half-serious moment of silence in the room for the fallen robot.
This is a 2013 video by a professor at MIT, Dr. Kate Darling. And the reason I found it essential for us to see this is because this is the world that we are moving in. Machines and humans forming bonds like never before. And when you have AI or Gen AI, whatever levels of intelligence we talk about, this bond is only going to get stronger. A couple of more historical stories. 2013, there was a movie made called Her. In that, the hero of the movie, or the main actor there, is a gentleman by the name of Theo. Socially awkward, talks with the computer and falls in love with the machine talking back, to the extent that his wife in that movie asked him this very question: are you dating your computer? This is a world that is now far more real than we could have imagined. And it will change how companies structure themselves. It'll change how company cultures are built. It'll change how countries operate. It's going to change fundamental organization structures. And that's really what I wanted us to reflect on collectively today. So that's why I titled this, How Will Organizations Plan for what we'd call the Disruptive AI Revolution? It's been a year since we woke up. To set context, Facebook took a year to get to 1 million. And it was social media. So the viral effect of Facebook was far greater than you would expect a viral effect of something like a GPT engine. The GPT has grown 180 times faster than Facebook had. And we are just getting started. So if you were to ask me that, how do you ever go about building an AI team in an organization? What is the organization structure going to look like in the future? The honest answer is, we don't know. So let's quickly take a look, where have these applications come from? And we are not even at 1% adoption. Co-pilots, everybody talks about it. We have companies obviously selling Copilot as solutions, but the fact is all of us will have this Copilot in our pocket in the days to come. Not in the years to come, in the days to come. Search and social media, $700 billion. That's a massive market, growing at double digits. What's going to happen when you start throwing a GPT engine at it? Software development, I have not coded for years, and I went and tried out how easy is it to code, and I wrote up a forecasting algorithm. What would have taken me days was done in minutes. I'm sure many of you have experienced that. And we can go on, legal service and education, financial services, content creators are getting disrupted, customer service, agri-food. Let's talk about drug discovery. And I'll talk about drug discovery in the context of something that came out in the news today, or yesterday. For the first time, the US government approved gene therapy using CRISPR. And it's for the sickle cell disease, which really had no cure. So you have to go in, do gene editing to be able to solve it. And I was reading up, what does it mean when you take CRISPR and when you take AI? And that's going to put gene therapy on steroids. When you start putting gene therapy on steroids, you start finding solutions to some of the diseases that we have so far found impossible to solve. Every single pharma company that have got existing business models will have to retool themselves. They have no option. They have just no option if they are not thinking of AI, because they will get disrupted. There are people that forecast that in the next 10 to 15 years, majority of the drugs will be gone. It's all going to go back to us being able to edit our problematic genes. In fact, some say we will be able to create super babies. What looked highly unlikely, almost impossible today, is a reality. So if I was making a bet in the stock market, I'd be thinking, which are these companies that would be of interest to me? So AI users, if I look at it today, 180 million subscribe to ChatGPT. We anticipate by 2030 that's 4 billion. So what does an Adani, other than the fact that we need to have an AI team, there are a few emerging business models at a scale that was really hard to visualize. So let me talk about what does it mean for an infrastructure company. The data center capacity that will be needed, and as a business, we are in the business of building data centers. We build it for all the hyperscalers in the world, and we build it here in India. Our order book of data center is larger than any other company in the country, so we got to be thinking, what's the future of the data centers? The data center capacity today is non-existent when we look at how will we actually run all that compute, where will all the data be stored. So that's about, it goes from 0.03 million GPUs, it could go to as high as 3 million GPUs. Nobody even knows where will those data centers get built from. And what gets even more interesting and scary is the extent of energy that will be needed. You go from 17 gigawatts to requiring 150 gigawatts. 150 gigawatts is more than majority of the nations of the world today consume. So what happens to the power of energy? The power of energy, the cost of energy just keeps going up. So when you take energy and when you take data centers, both these businesses become massive infrastructure businesses that actually will be required if any country is to be able to capitalize on the AI revolution. Nations will start asking their data, their GPUs, their computation power to be stored within the shores of their own country, because you just cannot afford to give it up to some other nation. We saw what happened in Russia. When the war started, all the hyperscalers turned the tap off. So they had to go back to depending on a local cloud provider. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So the impact of these AI is far, far, far greater than just what we as traditional technologists look at, get attached to. The predictions are that it will drive a revolution in terms of productivity, and any productivity revolution leads to a rise in GDP. Yes, there could be a whole different segmentations, the Gini indexes may change, the gap between the rich and poor could go up, but that's not what we are here to debate. Some nations that capitalize on this will see two big benefits. They will see this huge uptick in GDP, which means their geopolitical power will increase. The first bullet that you see here was a study that PwC had done. There was a movie, there have been several movies made on Nagasaki, Hiroshima, but if you remember in Oppenheimer, Oppenheimer goes to, and has a question, and his primary question to Einstein is, what happens once the bomb is triggered if the chain reaction doesn't stop? There's a scene, for those that have seen Oppenheimer very early on, that he goes and asks this question. And there was really no good answer that Einstein was able to give it. This is what AI revolution is. And we all realize we don't fully yet know what the end game is. But we all know that we must play, we must participate. And this is what organizations are struggling with. And we have not even started talking about quantum. I was recently talking to one of the companies that is on the forefront of quantum technology, and the discussion that we were having with them was not about quantum, it was about the energy needs. How do you cool to minus 170 degrees centigrade? What's the refrigeration needed? Where will that cooling come from? How much energy is needed? You need it as green energy. Where is that green energy going to come from? No, we are building the world's largest hybrid renewable park in Kutch. It's over 150,000 acres, 30 gigawatts of renewable power. When we had started conceptualizing that park a few years back, we thought that was massive amount of green energy. Today, when we see the needs, we feel it'll most likely be small. So how much of the world are we going to fill up with these large solar panel farms, with these massive wind turbines, is a question that today the world doesn't have an elegant answer to, because every single incremental unit of energy generated will go to feed these data centers to be able to feed the AI revolution. And as companies, these are massive business opportunities, but in a world where we are just wrapping up COP28 and you see that there is this whole 3x goals that has been set up till 2030, what are people going to be concerned about? Where are we going to get all that green energy from? And every single additional electron that is produced via the green energy will go to feed this data center. So what does this really mean? So far, we spoke about the impact on people, companies, countries. So let us now really take a look at how we organize. We'll have to be vastly different. Gary Hamel, many years ago, had written a book. And he said that if there's one thing that has not changed since the time the Romans ruled the world, is organization structure. It has always been a pyramid. It's always been a hierarchy. It has always been somebody dependent on somebody. That's how it's always been built. If you take Caesar, right at the top of the pyramid, he had to depend on an army. He had to depend on people giving him information. He had to depend on a Mark Antony to be able to fight his wars. Same thing goes when Augustus came in. Same thing goes when you had the largest of the Ottoman empires come in. They all had leaders who were dependent on a number 2 or a number 3 or a number 4 leader. That's how organizations have always been built. First time what we are starting to see now is the traditional organization structures must be questioned. Because majority of these jobs an AI engine can do. And somewhere deep inside, all of us, to some extent, are fearful of this. Because we don't exactly know what will happen. And if there is one fear that drives all of us, it's the feeling of uncertainty. So every single person, be it the most supreme white-collar executives in a company, to the blue-collar worker on the shop floor, everybody is worried. Because somewhere deep inside they know that the future organization structures will look very different. These conventional structures are actually dead. So what's that going to mean? Let's take a look at some roles that will lose their relevance in the years to come. Software development engineers. All of us know the biggest benefit we see is on how quickly we can code. So the pace of innovation that we see when the best of the minds actually don't have to spend time coding will dramatically increase. Because now suddenly you're not going to be spending that time coding, but the coders, the general coders, their jobs are all gone. And that's the reality. Business analysts, we've been all tried ChatGPT, and we all understand how quickly you can load a spreadsheet and how quickly you can get insights. How you can load multiple spreadsheets and ask it to make sense. Accounting. If I was an accountant today, if I was in a job today, I would really be worried if I didn't have a co-pilot working with me. Marketing content. This one's already happening. I have a video where we will quickly take a look at a 30-second clip which is completely built using an AI engine. Legal assistant. This is something which is already happening. There are companies that said that our legal departments and law firms are saying our law firms will be actually half or maybe 1/3 of the size. The AI engine can do this far more quickly, working 24/7, not missing anything than what a human can. CEOs already know what they want to say. And they will be less dependent on having a head of communications actually help them there, but they'll do it themselves. HR recruiting. We ourselves have actually built, and I'll talk a little bit about it if we don't run out of time, we ourselves have built our own internal AI engine to help us with recruiting. It's far faster. What we would take otherwise 3 months to do if we had to go out, hire an executive recruiting firm to go out and find who would be the right candidate and go through all those interviews, we have automated most of it. And we are just getting started. One particular role that we don't yet know, in a lighter vein, is what happened to Swamijis and Babajis. And I say this because a friend of mine once said, give me your birthday, give me your birth time, and let me ask the whole GPT engine to tell me, what your future is. And this is where it starts really, really getting interesting. So the writing is on the wall, and I just quickly want to go through this. The first one is that the robots wipe my job. It's really how the bots fired. It's a story. It's a story in the Fast company. It's how the bots fired the CEO. And at the end, I'll talk about a book that I would recommend everybody read. Some of you may have read it, but I'll come back to that. Content writers, definitely, GPT is going to take away many of their jobs. Many of you would have followed what happened with the Hollywood writers going on strike and almost having a union type of a workforce saying that we got to have our jobs protected. Law firms are recruiting more AI experts. I mentioned this. The Harvard Business Review had this really fascinating story. Can AI do strategy? So they gave a bunch of thinkers, regular traditional strategy guys to actually develop what the strategy would be, and at the same time they also gave it to a GPT engine. And it's a fascinating read because in not all, but in several of the aspects, what the engine told them was far more insightful, far more structured than what the humans told them. And so this is why, for the first time, we are at the cusp of an industrial revolution that is straight at the white-collar workers. Every single industrial revolution otherwise, starting from the steam engine to the first one, all the way to the fourth industrial revolution where we speak about IoT, sensorization of the plant floor. They've all been targeted towards the blue-collar worker largely. This is for the first time that the white-collar workers are thinking what happens to them. I know this is hard to read, but what we did, we used the BARD engine here, and we went, and I'll read it for you. We asked the engine, which are the most expensive jobs that AI will take away? And I'll read it out for you. It said within the category of financial services, it said the hedge fund manager, investment bankers, loan underwriters. And in healthcare, it says radiologists, anesthesiologists, and surgeons. This is something that we asked the AI engine itself, which are the most expensive jobs that will go away, and this is what we hear back. And the most coveted jobs on the Wall Street, or the most coveted jobs in any healthcare business, are the surgeons, the hedge fund managers, the investment bankers. So what does this mean really for us? And when we think about our organizations of the future, the type of people that we want to hire, the type of skills that we have to build, every CEO is going to have a chief AI of staff. Is it a man? Is it a machine? Is it an engine? We don't know that. But the feed into that is going to go from the CTO, COO, general counsel, everybody feeds in to the chief AI of staff. And that is what the CEOs will depend on in the years to come. Because that's where you get the most unadulterated information. I'll mention the book that I was talking about. This book is by another MIT scientist, Professor Max Tegmark. In that book is a company called Omega. The team's Omega in that company. And their job, this is a 2017 book, their job is to be able to build an AI tool that helps the company make money. And that the team that is the engine, the AI engine that the team Omega, the AI engine that they built was called Prometheus. And it's a pretty significant Greek name. But what it does, and what's really fascinating, is it starts using Amazon Web Services to write up articles, to write up press releases, to be able to make videos. And so what starts really happening, for every dollar they spent on Amazon Web Services, they start making $2 there. And soon they start making over $1 billion a day. With that much power that they get, making $1 billion a day, they start going and buying out press companies, TV channels. They go and start influencing governments in a positive way. They go and put in the best of judges. They find out, where are some of the people that are operating below the line sit. All the cleanup in the society starts happening because of this engine. So ultimately, where we go to in that book is a whole climate and whole atmosphere that the world is cleaned up. And it's all done by an AI engine. When I read it in 2017, it was hard to believe that something like this would even be possible. Today, I'm rereading that book. And I would urge you to read that book, because once you go through the first 10 pages, you will know everything that this professor said is coming true. And everything is happening in less than 7 years. I mentioned these animal trainers because I found this particular example classic. Why would an animal trainer job go away? Because what people are now doing is using the AI engines to start understanding how animals communicate with each other. How do whales talk to each other? How do rhinoceroses communicate to each other? How do dogs talk to each other? It's something that we would have thought unfathomable. But this is where we are going. This puts in threat jobs that otherwise we would think would just never go away. Movie makers, clearly, and hopefully I'll be able to show you this. This is a 30-second clip that was made all by an AI engine.
Take off the foo-foo, take off the cloud chase, take off the Wi-Fi, take off the money phone, take off the car loan, take off the flex and the white loss, take off the weird ass jewelry, imitate these steps, then taking off top five, take off the fabricated streams and the microwave memes, it's a real world outside. Take off your idols, take off the runway, take off the Cairo, take off the San Tropez, 5-day stay, take up for the meal as a value, take off the fuck flag, take off deception, take off the cop with the iPad, take off the unroll, take off the unsure, take off the solutions I had.
These faces don't exist. This is all in some ways original work done by an engine. Expand this out, and what happens to people that make ads? What happens to people that make movies? This is something, this power is now in our hands. My ability to write a proper prompt is perhaps the most disruptive ability that I would have. So what are the new jobs? In the short term, what are the new jobs that are important? And this is what we think about. Trainers, how are we going to train the AI system? We are in the process of building an AI lab. We have no option but to do it. And we are always looking for good people who can come in and really educate, train the entire organization and deploy cases which I will talk about. How are we going to bridge the gap between the technology people and the business leaders? This is a really, really, really hard job to fill for companies like us. We are always looking for these people. As a tech person, sometimes the tech is my own limitation, it's my baggage, because I assume every business person understands. If if I don't understand his psychology, especially in today's world, if I don't understand the chain management that she needs to go through, if I don't understand how are they actually feeling within the organization, and if I can't translate the whole bridge between what does technology do to them today, we have a problem as an organization. And of course, the sustainers. How are we going to use AI properly within the company? That's again something which is a job we will have to start thinking how to fill. And today, none of us have elegant answers to these new roles. These are hard JDs to create. And the funny thing is, the way we have started creating the job descriptions are all using an AI engine. So let's talk about some of the areas where the biggest revolutions are still to happen. And I will outline a few. Let me click through what this would be. The protein folding problem, new battery chemistry, study of climate change. Massive, massive, massive opportunities, and this has not been solved. When Google, the DeepMind, came up with for the first time on how proteins need to fold, all the scientists were shocked because there is no way they could have come up with a solution. And why is the protein folding important? Because if proteins don't fold in the right way, it impacts our immunity system. By being able to learn how proteins fold, the whole problem that humans have with allergies could potentially go away. But it's such a massive, multi-dimensional, complex problem that the compute was not available to be able to do it. You couldn't have modeled it, and this is why the protein folding problem, the solution to this was found by DeepMind. Battery chemistries. One of the things that stops the revolution of sustainability today, the limitation is batteries. So if I take the levelized cost of power using wind and solar today, it's significantly cheaper than any fossil fuel. But the problem we have is we don't know how to store it effectively because the battery chemistries don't exist. How do I maintain the life of the electrode? If I'm going to draw more power out of it, if I increase the temperature, the number of side reactions that happen in the battery, the electrodes get eaten up. How do we actually manage those chemistries so that we can lower the cost of batteries to something like $60 to $80 a kilowatt hour? If you are able to do that, now you are really accelerated the whole move towards green because you can store energy, which is the holy grail of being able to leverage solar and wind. And that's why these battery chemistries are critical, and people are hopeful that because of the ability to crunch this much data and find patterns from that data, that this solution will be found. Study of climate change. NVIDIA is a great example. They have launched their own AI engine, and microclimate change is really crucial. And from a business perspective, why it becomes essential is because we have to forecast how much power will we deliver to the grid every 15 minutes. It's really hard for us to say every 15 minutes what's going to happen. But now with the computation that is available, it is possible to be able to do this micro forecasting of weather. For a business like ours, or for anybody in the energy business, leave alone the other benefits, just for all the companies in the energy business, this is a gold mine. Some other areas, material science, new drug discoveries, the human mind. Material science, let's take a look at again, let's go back to the hottest topic these days, sustainability. My ability to be able to squeeze more electrons out of every square inch or square centimeter of the solar panel is the holy grail. We used to be able to have panel efficiencies of about 14 or 15% 8-9 years back. Today those panel efficiencies are at 25, 26, 27%. But how do we actually get more and more and more electrons out of every square unit of the solar panel, ensuring that the life of the panel doesn't decrease below that 25 years today that we guarantee? Such material science is crucial. And this is where, again, there's a lot of application that's going on using AI. New drug discoveries, we know that every single pharma company, like I said at the start, every single pharma company will have to be an AI company. If they don't retool themselves to be an AI company, perhaps they're dead in the waters of the sea. And the human mind, we talk about downloading consciousness. We talk about how are we going to actually understand how all the neurons fire in our mind. That's, we realize that's what AI is all about. And the study of the human mind is now finally possible. So how well we can use AI is limited by the internal talent. And that's why these meetings like this become really essential. Because the only way we can stay abreast of what's going on without seeking a perfect solution is to start at least building an organization. So if as an organization, if I don't understand that I got to take this journey despite the uncertainty of where everything is going to end, if I don't take that journey today, it's impossible for me to decide and wait and say 5 years in the future that, oh, now I got a stable market and I can start building an organization. That's not going to work. We have taken the journey like many other companies that are now starting to take the journey. And I will be the first one to admit, when we started this journey about a year back, the way I was thinking of staffing the AI team and the way we have to staff it today is totally different. So the instability in terms of even how the AI team is going to be organized makes it harder and harder and harder. We were thinking of data engineers, data scientists, we think of people that understand large language models. We say, do we have in-house large language models? Can they do fine-tuning? We think about all these different skills. And every single skill today, it appears, is going to be available literally free. So how are we going to go about doing it is an open question. So what are we doing? AI at Adani, what are we working on? What are some of the problems that the teams that we have try and solve? Price intelligence tools. Raw material for us to build the solar panels is the solar wafer. It's made from silicon. How are we going to predict what's going to happen to the price of silicon? Majority of the solar panels today get made in China. Any little change in an excess inventory there, or a policy change in some government somewhere, or a certain incentive in some nation where they say, I'm going to actually take the tariff off from the panels that are being imported. All of this has massive impact on the price of solar panels. It's just not possible to solve it mathematically. So we have to be able to use the power of the large language models to be able to do it, and then fine-tune it using our own internal data, our own internal expertise. So that's one area where we have started seeing some success. A 2 or 3% improved forecast turns into millions and millions and billions of dollars. Anomaly detection. We talk about different types of material that we buy, fraud materials, suppliers that have actually faulted. Again, it's really hard to throw a human at it. This is where the AI engines kick in. Understanding documents, simple thing, complex in some ways, but massive productivity. When we are supposed to go through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds or thousands of pages of different bid documents, how are you going to study that? How are we going to find patterns there? When do I know when the deadlines are due? What have I understood from the past? This is where we have started using our AI tools. Human resources, I just said, we are trying to move to a place where every single graduate engineer trainee that we hire, we have no interviews. It's all done through this engineer coming in, clicking a link, giving an interview where he or she is recorded, being able to actually grade them. Everything goes automated so that the time they get the appointment, till the time they get the appointment letter, that is not a single interview that has been done. That's where we want to go in. And as we have started the journey, we have realized that when you want to hire 5,000 GETs every year, think about the amount of bias that comes in. If I am today going to go and have people go and interview 5,000 people, to select 5,000 people, we need to interview 15,000 people. How many people can we actually, call it HR, call it young other engineers, managers, can be sent to interview? So all that process we are automating, but not just the whole graduate engineer trainees. Even at the highest and the most executive senior levels, we have built our own internal recruiting tool that can actually at least go out and identify that for this job description, here are the 15 best people in the world that you should be looking at. Now, interviews still happen, but think about it. I would otherwise have to go to an executive recruiter and tell the recruiter, find me these people. That's a 3-month process. That's an expensive process. If you pay somebody X, 30% of that money goes to the recruiter. So if you are going to spend 100 crores just on recruitment, compared to that, For less than a crore, we can get that engine built. That's the whole productivity side. But more important than the productivity, think of the base. Think of the lesser buyers. Think of the wider net we are able to cast. That's where we have started using AI. Some more quick examples. Supply chain optimization, cement. You know, we are India's largest cement producer. We make about 80 million tons of cement every year. Produced in different factories, sent to different distributors, markets change, there are seasonal variations, there are maintenance issues, there are trucking issues. It is just not possible to mathematically model this. This is where we put all the data in and try to find patterns which otherwise would not be possible. Now, I will be the first to admit that we have not solved this. We have not solved this, but we have started seeing early signs of the benefits that one could get, and those benefits are encouraging. It allows our leadership team to go back and say that we will work on these 50 cases. To be able to work on those 50 cases, our total cost of the team, let's say, is going to be 150 crores of the people that we have. But if I get even one of them, if I get one problem right, if I get the forecasting for the price of silicon wafers right, or if I'm able to improve my supply chain optimization, the cement, and my pricing of the cement by 1%, when you're talking about a 40,000 crore business, that 1% is material. And that 1% pays for the whole AI team that we have. That's the methodology of thinking, and that's the value proposition that tech people will have to make to their management as they go about building the AI teams. But the fact is, the journey has to be taken. Travel and e-commerce, we today know that we are trying to move where our own travel is actually built by an AI engine. The itinerary is done by an AI engine, so we don't have to have an own internal travel department. And in terms of operations optimization, I mean, we run airports, departure, passenger footfall prediction. You know, airports are a place where we want to have people spending time not in lines, but inside the airport so that they buy F&B, they go to duty free. And so how are you going to actually balance the queues? How do you optimize that? When do you open up an additional security gate? How are you going to actually move the planes around so that the planes come to the right gates? And because those passengers in those planes actually that disembark or are actually taking that journey use and buy more of the duty-free products. These are all cases where today we can use the AI engine to give us better solutions. It's not that these were not being done. A lot of the things were done well using optimization techniques, but the ability to use AI just puts this whole traditional techniques on steroids in some cases. And the returns that you see are massive. And those returns is what pays for the teams. So as I start wrapping up, we are moving to a world where it's going to be AI plus AI and AI versus AI. So the way I would explain that is by taking a simple example of whether it is chess, or whether it is Go, AlphaGo, all these games we have seen that we have reached a stage where the AI machine plays against the AI machine, and they teach each other. And they're teaching each other at a pace that human beings would never be able to teach. What would take a man or a woman to read a document of maybe 10,000 pages and would take maybe 3 weeks is today now being done in a matter of minutes. And each AI engine is training the AI engine. The AI versus AI, areas like cyber. What are we most worried about as a company? We run critical infrastructure across the country, airports, ports, data centers, transmission, generation, LNG, LPG. That's all critical infrastructure. We have to protect it. The more powerful the engine in the hands of the wrong people, the better they are able to break all the cryptography, and that's what worries us. So there will be a world where there'll be AI and AI, and there's going to be a world that's going to be AI versus AI. This particular quote is where I'm ending, and this is a quote from 1956. So this is even before Turing. And so it says, and I'll read it out to you, since the design of machines is an intellectual activity, an ultra-intelligent machine could design even better machines. That's exactly what we see. Thus, the first ultra-intelligent machine is the last invention that man need ever make. Sounds absolutely logical today. probably sounded very, very illogical when it was written. But this is the killer statement. Provided that the machine is docile enough to tell us how to keep it under control. This was a British mathematician, 1965. So as a wrap up, what I'd like to say is, we are here. This is the first time we are attending the Pan IIT. We are seen as a traditional infrastructure company, but we realize that our world will look very different going ahead, which is why I'm here along with my IIT colleagues who all work with me at Adani to be able to network with you, and hopefully we'll be able to create magic together, not only just for the IITians, not for our company, but for the country.